Hello, this is Andrew, and this is another devlog video. So, unlike last week, this video should be on time, thank God. This video should be pretty short for the most part, since most of the work that I've done over the course of the last several days has not really been on systems, although I did add a new system into the game. Most of the time has been spent working on a new level. This level, similar to the first two, the platforming demo and the combat demo, this is still very much a tech demo type level. It's not going to have all the features. It's not going to be like the final product. It's going to be similar though. It's getting closer, especially compared to the platforming demo and the combat demo. But the main purpose is really to get actual feedback. So once I finish this level that I'm working on, I'm gonna really push it to people. Like I have a few, select people that I always go to get really good feedback in terms of like, how the game's going, getting feedback, especially on the game's like mechanics and how everything's working together. That way, when I finally start putting together the real, actual levels, I already have all the experience to actually push out something that works pretty well. But before I go through the level and show off the new system that I put in place, once again, I'm going to first talk about it and then show it, since currently I'm not good at playing the game while also speaking. But first and foremost, I implemented what I call the encounter system. So this system is not going to be named at all in the game, but something that's just going to work silently in the background. But basically the way it works is, each level is broken up into multiple quote-unquote encounters. An encounter is really just a giant polygon where if the character enters in it, a bunch of enemies spawn, and if all the enemies associated with that encounter are slayed, a door that corresponds to that encounter opens up. So that's what it is in the most basic of terms. There is a little bit of nuance to it where I'm going to set it up such that you don't necessarily need to kill all the enemies for certain encounters. It's going to be very dependent on what encounter you're in, but that information is up to the player to find out. And there's also going to be cases where there can be multiple doors that open, or there could be areas where there could be multiple encounters within the same area, and it's up to the player to choose, which encounter they want to, proceed to do, or which encounters they want to choose in which order. Currently, the encounters that I have in place are pretty simple. They're nothing too sophisticated, but that's the point. So this is not yet implemented, but later in this level, I'm going to also put back the tutorial signs. So this is going to be very similar to the platforming demo in that it's going to be shaped as like a tutorial, since I really want to guide the player in learning the ways of the game. That way they can feel more confident when they go into the more sophisticated level design stuff that'll have later. So, what else? I did fix a bunch of issues. One of the biggest issues that I fixed was there was a little physics glitch between going from a angled surface to a flat surface. It's something that many people probably didn't notice, but if you walk back and forth enough, you would have noticed the character would have done like a little hop, and it was especially visible for mobs when they are walking back and forth on sloped platforms. But apart from that, all the rest of the time has been spent working on this level. So as you can see, there's no graphics yet. My general workflow for level design currently is first and foremost get down as many of the walls, and when I say wall, that also includes the ground. In the game's code, everything is a wall, including the ground that you walk on. And in addition to working on the walls first, I also try to figure out encounter placement and enemy placement too. And then eventually, once I start, when I actually implement the hazard system, so later in the game, there's gonna be falling rocks or lava balls shooting from different places. Once I get those systems in, my general workflow for building a level is going to be walls, and then while also building up the walls, figuring out all the different encounters with the enemies and the hazards. And there's also, I almost forgot, there's going to be a buff system, so there's still quite a bit of systems that have yet to be implemented, but those systems should be, drastically simpler compared to the physics in the combat system. So the combat system has surprisingly been taking quite a bit of time to get implemented, and there's still plenty of like fine tuning that I'll have to do. But for the most part, I have most of the pieces that I want. I'm still debating whether or not I want to implement flying enemies. I might just not do that and just see what the general, reception is. I'm hoping to avoid doing that. Not that I can't, it's just I really want to move on to other aspects of the game. And the challenge of flying enemies is that you have to deal with more sophisticated pathing, like around, because now they have an extra dimension to move around. It's something else to think about, which, I'll work on the next game. But for this game, I'm trying to very much limit the scope. That way, I'm not working on this game until the end of time. But without further ado, allow me to go through the level. I'll briefly mention, which places I'll be putting a sign. This is going to be the starting area, and there'll be a sign that says, like, oh, this is how you jump, and this is where you learn how to jump. The sign will also explain that, you can do a short hop, and then you can do a long jump by holding down. So this is where you would do the long jump. That's a long jump here. So, unlike the platforming level, I think I taught, if I remember correctly, in the platforming demo, I put down the tutorial for learning the wall jump a lot later. I think it's a lot better to teach the player the wall jump sooner. That way, if they don't make it to a jump, they can use the wall jump to get up. Because like before, I taught the dash before the wall jump, but it makes a whole lot more sense just to teach the wall jump almost immediately. So there's the wall jump, short hop, and this is where I'll teach the dash. So there'll be a sign here that says, oh, this is how you dash. So you jump, dash, and you get across. Jump, dash, short jump, long jump, go up here, and this is where you do the dash into wall jump, obviously. One thing that I'm planning on not telling the player directly, and I'm hoping I can get away with this, is when you do a wall jump after, if you do a wall jump, it immediately resets your dash, right? And I'm hoping after a certain point, the player will realize that, oh, if I dash, I can't dash immediately, so there's some type of like recovery. But if you look closely, the character flashes white, indicating that, oh, okay, my dash is ready. But if you jump off a wall like that, you can see that the white flash comes back immediately, indicating that you get a dash reset after a wall jump. So, similar to the platforming demo, I'll be taking full advantage of that mechanic throughout the level. At least in like smaller portions for more advanced platforming. But at least in this level, I'll try to keep it to a minimal. So, this is where I would teach the drop dive mechanic. So, this is the first encounter of the encounter system. So, it's hard to notice, but that enemy, the slime to the right there, if you notice that it's kind of like respawning. So, I'm within a encounter polygon, and in that polygon, enemies will spawn, right? And the polygon is, really small. It's just a rectangle in this case. And this is the area where you get taught how to swing your sword, right? And what I'm hoping I can get away with is just, only thing I'll tell the player is that, hey, this is how you swing your sword. And it's up to the player to kind of figure out on their own through experimentation all the different ways they can apply swinging their sword, right? So obviously, if you hit an enemy takes damage, you push him away, right? But if you do if you hit an enemy with your third attack, you can actually fling them, right? Which currently that's not necessarily very helpful. For people who are doing speedrunning, they might realize that if you're good enough, you can hit enemies off and then time it such that, oh, if I hit an enemy close to the door, I can save myself potential time, between getting down and going to the door. As I mentioned in the previous video, time's gonna be really important. The goal of this game is to complete the level as quickly as possible, and to do that, you need to reach a certain time threshold to become Slayer Knight. And I'm not sure if I'm still going to do this, but the original plan is that, you know, if you become Slayer Knight at all the levels, you unlock the final boss fight. But I'm kind of thinking about maybe adding a system where if you're able to get to certain chests quick enough, then you'll be able to unlock them, and you know that'll be another way you can like take advantage of getting to the level quicker. But it's still kind of like up in the air. So to just to further demonstrate the encounter system, if I jump up, come back down, it resets the enemy. So normally when a player is playing through this level, I don't expect them to be doing this, right? So as soon as they come down, they'll just see the enemy. They'll first see a sign that says, "Oh, this is how you attack." Obviously, they see a door here, right? So like the thought process should be like, "Oh, okay, well I need to go and maybe kill the enemy," right? Oh, there we go. So hopefully that sound is not going to be too loud. I might have to do some balancing. And here's the next area. So if the player goes down here, they'll hit a door. But because the slime was on that platform, they should be naturally drawn to like attack the slime. So kill these slimes, and kill this slime. Come down. There we go, and unlock the next area. So in this area, as soon as they walk into this area, I'm not going to explain anything, but what I'm planning to happen is that, oh, they walk in, they see a slime start glowing blue. So in many videos ago, I explained another mechanic called the untouchable mechanic. So throughout the game, by default, all characters, including the knight and other enemies, you could just walk through them and nothing will happen. But if they're untouchable, they'll take damage, right? So the idea is that, like, oh, they walk over and they try to, you know, walk into the enemy, they'll take damage. But hopefully, the player will notice that, like, oh, if the slime is looking away, then you should be able to slay them. Right? So, dead. Right? And then do a little platforming. Oh, I'm bad at my own game. Right. So another thing to notice is that enemy might be untouchable, but you can still space enemies, right? So you don't have to like jump over, dash through, or wait for them to turn around. If you just take advantage of the range of your weapon, then you could use that to hit enemies without wasting any precious time. All right. Oh, that took damage. Hopefully I don't actually die. All right. Oh, I almost forgot. This enemy's tankier. Jump, jump. Oh, I might actually die. That'd be really sad if I die. Okay, I'm gonna play a lot careful now. Okay, that guy's tankier. Alright, and that opens the door. I got a nasty feeling that door sound is gonna be really loud in the panel video, so I'll have to work on balancing that out. So there was a door here, which unlocks this path over here. So the rest of the level is obviously not finished yet. I'm still working on it, everything. But those were 3 different encounters. But like I said before, the player is not going to be told all this information. The idea is that hopefully, as the player is playing each level or playing through the level, they'll realize that, oh, wait a minute. The level itself is kind of divided up into different areas, and if I leave the encounter or the designated area, it resets the enemies. So I need to stay and kill all the enemies. And obviously, if the character died, you would respawn outside of the encounter that you died in. So that feature isn't quite implemented just yet. So if I died currently, the whole level would have restarted. But the idea is that you don't restart the whole level, obviously. Instead, you just restart at the beginning of the encounter that you entered. And that system should just work very naturally. But that basically covers it for this devlog video. Thanks to those who took the time to watch it, and I hope you guys have a very nice week.